let's call to order here the City Forest Park Virtual Council Work Session, June 8th, 2020. The first item of the first above the line item is the 2021 tax budget. Councilwoman Herbie and company.
Well, we had a Ways and Means Committee meeting before this where we heard from our finance director, Ms. Robinson. So I asked her to address this.
In our 2021 budget, we updated our revenue, of course, for 2020, as well as projecting our revenue for 2021. Now, our tax budget still reflects our need for real property tax, and we will quote that need on Hamilton County to let them know that we really do need our property tax revenue. But just to advise all of council, the estimated projection for 2020 is a 12% decline in the revenue anticipated for 2020 and an additional 6% decline in 2021. So this COVID impact has affected us. We were ahead of budget before COVID hit. We were in very good. January was above the prior year, and so was February. March, of course, because that's when the pandemic hit, our revenue declined, and now we're 10 to 11% behind in what our anticipated revenue stream is. Now, we've got to anticipate that we won't recover anything. That's the worst of it. Now, we probably will recover some of it. We have made moves with the department heads. We had them put a hold on as much of the spending as possible, and we have been able to recover nearly half of what we anticipate to lose this year. So we won't spend that money unless by July 15th, it shows that we not only picked up what we lost, but gained some more. We'll be back on track. Now, how much of that I won't know till August. So I know y'all can't go to church, but while y'all in y'all virtual church, pray for us. So first of all, so we don't catch anything while we're trying to collect these taxes. And second, that we collect everything that we missed in April.
Okay. All right. Any questions on the 2021 tax budget? Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, then we'll move down to the next item, which is redevelopment incentive engineering. Councilman Herbie again.
Yes, and again, we had a Economic Development Commission meeting where we talked about this, and I would ask Paul to speak to that.
Thank you, Councilor Herbie. First of all, can everyone hear me okay?
You're good.
Good. This is, well, since Harlita gave you that side of the fence, I can give you a little bit of good news, so I get to be the good news person today. We actually have been working with one of our long-term businesses. They've been in the city since the mid-1980s. It was originally called OKL Can Line. It is now called OKL Engineering. They specialize in the manufacture and design of can sets. This would be like the can set for the food, beverage, medical industries. They do some of that can making themselves, but they also participate in the design and build of equipment that's used in the industry. So they actually design plants and work with companies on providing them the equipment they need in addition to doing this manufacturing work themselves. OKL has approximately 30 full-time employees, and they plan to add another 20 full-time employees as a result of this project. They are currently leasing 2 buildings in Crossways Industrial Park over on Sebring Drive. As all of you know, part of what we like to do is work with some of our existing companies that are leasing and move them into either, some type of an owner-occupied situation. this project accomplishes that. OKL Canline would acquire a building in, I believe it's Chappelle, in the same industrial park. They would move all of their operations under one roof. As I said, they would keep the 30 existing jobs and add another 10 to 20 jobs. Overall, this is about $3 million in payroll. So as you guys all know, we have a 1.5% earnings tax. So for every $1 million in payroll, we see $15,000 in revenue. I'm looking at Harlita to make sure my math's right. So she always likes to check me out. She knows me. But so, you know, we'll be seeing a fair amount of revenue. In order to get this project, the company is looking at sites in some neighboring jurisdictions, including several outside of Forest Park. I believe that we can keep them here, and it's a very simple way to do it. We've proposed a redevelopment incentive package that includes 2 redevelopment grants, a $15,000 grant this year, a $15,000 grant next year. And then in the 3rd year, they would see a 50% rebate of the withholdings they report to the city for the jobs. Now, overall, the package is capped at $55,000. So if the company expands dramatically, which honestly is a possibility, if they do better than what they think they're going to do, we would cap the incentive at a total ceiling of $55,000. So for $55,000 over a 3-year period, we're going to see $3 million, anywhere between $3 and $3.5 million of investment. The company's going to invest $1.5 to $2 million on the building, another $1 million on machinery and equipment. So, you know, for a modest investment of our resources, we're going to see a pretty significant return. And again, it helps us keep one of our businesses that we've had for a long time. It's in an area that's a target of our redevelopment program. And then finally, it moves one of our existing businesses from leasing space to owner occupant building. So this is kind of a win-win for both sides. I think we have a very good shot at securing this project, and we would recommend approval of the incentive.
Any questions for Mr. Paul on the OKL engineering?
One question, are there any binding verbiage in regards to what the city will offer in the grants if we have a what if?
We do. We always, in our incentive agreements, we put in a couple of different clauses. There is obligations on both parties' part. So really, we wouldn't release the first grant until the company has closed, bought the building, and began the relocation of their operations. The second grant would be contingent upon the employment staying at least stable, and we would probably have a benchmark number that they would have to maintain a certain number of jobs. The withholdings is the easiest part. If they create the jobs, they see that rebate. If they don't create them, they don't see the rebate. But
Okay.
It's all kind of geared, it's all performance based.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any other questions on that? Go to the 3rd item, which is redevelopment incentive for Kid Coffee.
And we also discussed this as well. So Paul, you can take this over too.
Thank you, Councilor Herbie. This is a smaller project. Nonetheless, it's one I think we're fairly excited about because it involves a vacant building. It's actually been vacant for quite some time over on the Northland corner. This company is actually based in Mason, and they're not leaving Mason. I think it's important to know we're not stealing this company. The company is actually to expand its operations and add a distribution and roasting facility. So they would invest $500,000 to acquire the building. And then plus they would spend another $200,000 on machinery and equipment. It would create 5 new jobs as a result of the project. So this is not, and they would retain 7 full-time jobs. So we're looking at 12 full-time jobs and maybe a handful of part-time jobs as a result of this project coming to Forest Park. Again, these aren't necessarily big numbers. We're not recommending a big incentive. We're only recommending a $5,000 redevelopment grant. The primary purpose for that is because this is a building that has sat vacant for quite some time over on Northland. It's actually a nice building, and if you're familiar with the site, this is the old Cincinnati Testing Labs property. You might remember Cincinnati Testing Labs started on Northland Boulevard. Then we were able to get them to build their 60,000, 70,000 square foot building over at Carolina. When they built that building, they left these properties. Two of the buildings were killed almost immediately, but there's a third building that kind of sits in the back that's been vacant for quite some time. That's the building they're taking, and they're actually looking at maybe doing a second building as well. The reason we like this project is because Kit Coffee is actually has established a number of retail stores throughout the Cincinnati market. They're growing. I think this gives us an opportunity to really link with a fast-growing company in the Cincinnati market, get them early. And again, this is kind of our bread and butter. We like to catch people where they're at this point in their growth phase. We try to get them in Forest Park, and then we try to eventually, over time, get them to do more and more in the community. OKL is an example of that. EQM is an example of that. Cincinnati Testing Labs is an example of that. Geotechnology. These are all companies that started small with us, and then we kept them in the community and helped them grow over time. So, this is not a big incentive project, but I think it gives us a chance to get our foot in the door with a really Class A company and help bring them to Forest Park.
Questions? Anybody?
They're really great at supporting places like Ronald McDonald and Bethany House. Along with this incentive, is there an ask that we can do so that they are supporting Winton Woods foundations like the education foundations and the like?
We haven't done anything specifically with them, Councilman. Typically, for our enterprise zone agreements, since those do affect the schools, and I think you know this from your work on the EDC, we do ask companies to specifically work with Winton Woods City Schools in some manner, shape, or form, because that incentive actually impacts the schools, because we're talking about property tax money in some cases. In this case, since it's part of the city incentive, we haven't done that. We can certainly put that in a clause like that. I would tell you, my discussions with them, I think they would be very open to something like that. Like you said, this is a company that's very community minded. I've been very impressed with them. And I think I think just to talk about this being the start of our relationship with them, it might be the start of a relationship but I think connecting them with some of those options you mentioned, I think those are definitely options we can look into.
Anything else from anybody else on Kit Coffee? We have 3 items below the line: property purchase and amending depositors and reappropriation. Paul, just a quick question. Rosalind, did you have anything on property purchase?
No, I don't. No.
Paul, is this part of years ago when we started buying? Are these the 3 some of the properties that we purchased back in 12 or 14?
Mayor, I would love to tell you I know the answer to this, but this is actually one of Chris's projects.
Yeah, I know we purchased some. When we set up the.
I believe you're correct, Don. I don't know if you know the answer to that, but I believe you're correct on that.
These are land
demolished.
Yeah, they were demolished back in the
Yes,
day.
they're demolished.
They're demolished, and now this is the ability for us to take the empty lot
And purchase them.
and now then we'll control the lot and we'll be able to redevelop it. But through the land bank, it basically wipes out all the liens on the property, and we can get it without having to pay. It's basically just the cost of changing the title.
Okay.
$1,000 per property to own the lot, control them, and then our plans would be to put these with other lots that we have acquired over the last couple of years or several years, and come up with a comprehensive plan to redevelop all of those lots. Yeah.
Anything else from anybody else on below the lines? Hearing none. Anything else for the good of the order from anybody?
We still have I guess, Harlita, you want to talk about the banking services and the reappropriation? Is that below the line?
Yeah, those are below the line, but I can speak to them. The
Okay.
banking services is so that we can add Fifth Third Bank and WorldPay as credit card processors. Fifth Third had come to us with a proposal to help us do add some more buttons to our website and let us do some online payments for recreation, for income tax, for permits and things of that nature. So we're working with Fifth Third to develop a portal to allow our residents to pay us money through our website. That has been something that I think for the last couple of years we've been trying to do. Haven't been successful in finding a good partner, and Fifth Third has agreed to be there for us. One of the other things that we need to do is we need to introduce the new credit card standards, the EMV standards. So with us changing from Municipay to WorldPay, who also partners with Fifth Third, we will be adding EMV authorization to our credit card processing, which gives us more security, less fraud. We have more protections in doing EMV. Your transactions are more secure. So that's the reason for all of those switches. The primary reason for the reappropriation is that we need to do an advance to one of our funds so that it doesn't go negative and we stay compliant with budgetary law. So we're asking to change one of our transfers to an advance so that we can make that advance in the month of June.
Okay. Any questions from anybody?
I have a question.
Anything else from anybody? Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, you may have already mentioned this. I apologize for getting in late, but Harlita, what does the budget? I was looking through and I don't see where specifically maybe we'd be considering dollars given based on the metro, metro, because the way I understood it was we would be able to submit basically a street or a portion of drive or of road space up for repair through that. Is
No, I haven't heard
through
anything about
through number for issue 7.
Issue 7. No, I have not. Our issue 7 applications are handled through Public Works. They apply for all of our road improvements. This particular budget is not our final budget. This is the budget that is prepared for us to justify getting our property tax. So this is purely revenue driven. And it is designed for me to prove to the county auditor that we need them to levy our property tax.
Also on the, for the issue 7, in terms of us budgeting money, we would normally, if we budgeted the money and we haven't received the grant yet, we won't normally budget it until after we get the authority. We know that we're actually getting that amount of money, because we can't spend it till we get the authority to get the money. So we don't know how much revenue we're going to get yet until we make the application. And then once we get that, then we would appropriate the money and that would give us the authority to spend it. So this is just the first step of the process, but you're right. There will be some funds coming, hopefully our way. We definitely have roads that would qualify in terms of needing repair. Good question.
Okay. Anything else from anybody else on that, or any other issues? So remember, next Monday, 7:45 is the public hearing, and 8 o'clock is the council meeting. And we will, there will be a virtual meeting, and at some point down, we'll talk about where we're going to go after this.
Okay.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Is the link for both going to be the same, since we'll go from one to the other?
I would say yes, but we'll talk to Chip, and I would say yes, we're gonna try and do that.
Thank you.
Okay, hearing nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.